Welcome to the second episode of Composer's Conversation. My name is Patricio Molina, composer, pianist, and director of the Conservatory at the Newark School of the Arts. I am joined today with co-host Nadine Herman, artistic director at the school, and we're happy to welcome composer Lori Laitman to our conversation. Described by Fanfare magazine as one of the most talented and intriguing of living composers, Lori Laitman has composed multiple operas and choral works and hundreds of songs setting text by classical and contemporary poets, including those who perished in the Holocaust. Today, we talk about the process of writing an opera, influential composers in Laitman's career, the creative inspiration of composers, and current and future projects to look out for.
I shall not live in vain. I shall not live in vain. I shall not live in help one fainting robin unto his nest again. I shall not live in vain. I shall not live in vain. I shall not live.
So thank you so much, Lori, for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
And on the other line, we also have our music director, Nadine Herman.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Lori.
So let's start with the first question. I know that a lot of composers, ultimate dreams in a way is to write an opera and get it premiered. So that must have been a tremendous experience for you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, the experience of premiering your own opera?
Sure, it was a great experience, but it was a long and surprisingly winding path. So to begin with, it was not my dream to write an opera. It just kind of happened. I was at a song festival called Songs Across the America that was held at University of Central Arkansas in 2006. And composers from the US and South America were being featured. And one of the faculty there, Robert Holden, was performing one of my songs with a poem by David Mason called Swimmers on the Shore, which deals with Alzheimer's. And he really liked my music, and he asked if I would write an opera for his school. And I said, sure. But I said I really couldn't do it until 2009, but then circumstances came together, and the University of Central Arkansas premiered it in 2008. The professional premiere took place in 2016, also a long and winding path with Opera Colorado. And between the full world premiere and the professional world premiere, I reorchestrated the opera 3 times as my skills grew, and I just wanted it to be the best that it could be. It was originally scheduled with Opera Colorado for 2013, but then there was a financial issue and it was pushed back. I will say that I was very, very lucky to have such a fantastic team, not only starting with David Mason's incredible libretto, where he took Hawthorne's wonderful story, but distilled it down to beautiful poetry so that I could write the opera. Working with him was a dream. Working with my wonderful stage director, Beth Greenberg, who spent 25 years at New York City Opera, was a dream. And working with the entire team at Opera Colorado, led by Greg Carpenter, who's the general director, and Ari Pelto, and all of my cast, was a dream. So it turned out very, very well, even though there were times during that process where it wasn't as smooth as I had anticipated. But to see your music performed by great artists and you have that opportunity is really special, and I'm eternally grateful for that.
Wow. You know, what is the process? Because I'm always curious, of working with another artist, this time, being the librettist, how that relationship works.
Well, I had a long history already of working with Dave Mason, and so we were friends. And I just think he's a genius. So I gave him free rein to do whatever he needed to do, and then he gave me free rein to do whatever I needed to do. There were a few times where we changed a word or two, or eliminated something to streamline the opera. In fact, the whole entire epilogue, when it went up on the stage at Opera Colorado, we realized that it was more dramatic just to cut the epilogue, even though it's an essential part of the book. In opera, sometimes it's better to have somebody die and have the curtain come down. And so we made that big change there. And I don't think Dave was particularly pleased to have so many of his words cut. And, I worked very hard on the epilogue too, but I think ultimately it made the piece much stronger. And again, that was an idea that Greg and Ari had and suggested. And if I really didn't agree that it was stronger, I wouldn't have done it. But I did think it was stronger, so I wrote a condensed ending because I really needed to reference some of the music that had come before in the chorus. Like there's a Greek chorus aspect to it, and I needed to pull things together.
Well, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, well, first of all, thank you for giving us this beautiful composition of yours to play today, sung by the great Randall Scarlatta, and of course, played by the unbelievable clarinetist Anthony McGill. But what I wanted to ask you, as for myself, I've had the opportunity to sing a lot of contemporary music, and I have found that I've had the most success with compositions, even though they were complicated. They had vocal lines which allowed the voice to express itself musically and dramatically, and allowed the voice to sing. And I wanted to ask you, what composers influenced you in your vocal style of writing?
Well, when I first started writing for The Voice, it was again sort of reluctantly. My friend Lauren Wagner had won a number of competitions, and I think it was Concert Artists Guild that had the one of the prizes was the ability for her to make her debut CD, and she was the one that pushed me to write songs, even though I didn't think I could do it. So I was completely ignorant of the song literature aside from knowing Schumann and Schubert and
Hmm.
the standards. And so I learned a lot by listening to the songs that Lauren loved to sing. I was particularly drawn to the music of Paul Bowles, and my first song, "The Metropolitan Tower," was patterned after Bowles's song "Secret Words," and patterned in a way that I just didn't know what I was doing. So I thought, oh, I like this song. Let me see if I can make a song that that I also like as much, maybe. And what I did was have the piano right hand sort of double the vocal line, and just have it be fairly strophic. And I used the poetry of Sarah Teasdale. That was probably the last time that I had such a duplicate vocal piano line ever. Um, and this is a funny story. Lauren's pianist, Frederick Weldy, who was also a dear friend of mine, it came back
Hmm.
to that, oh, it's a pretty song, but the piano part was very simple. So I was determined after hearing that comment through the grapevine that I was never going to have a simple piano part again. It was going to be challenging and kind of independent. And that led to me developing my own style. I really didn't have time to study a lot. I had three small children in 1991. Now I have three large children. And so I kind of developed my own style, and so I don't think that there were that many composers that had a direct influence. I would say that every composer I've ever heard has had an influence. Because whether it's a good composer or a bad composer, you can learn what you admire and maybe steal it and adapt it, and
Right.
or if it's really bad, you can learn what not to do. That being said, here's a partial list. I mean, I love Monteverdi, in college, and I just love Papaya, and it's just such beautiful music.
So do I. Hmm.
Yeah, and so, I admire composers that have a very good melodic and dramatic sense.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I grew up listening to Leonard Bernstein's West Side Story, and so
Yeah.
I adore West Side Story and Candide. And like I said,
Hmm.
I love Paul Bowles. William Balcom continues to blow my mind with his
Hmm.
unbelievable, awesome creativeness. And Ned Rorem has some great songs, and John Duke and Ernest Bacon and Rebecca Clark with her Seal
Yeah.
Man. I still
Hmm.
can never get over that. And Thea Musgrave, and then Puccini, Verdi, and Mozart. That's just a
Not not a bad list, right?
short list.
One of the things listening to your music that came, one of the thoughts that came to me is that your music sounds in a way in two ways. It sounds like everything that came before, and at the same time, like nothing that came before.
Oh,
So
that's
it's an interesting, you're mentioning all of these composers, and it's in a way a little bit of everybody, but with the combination of all these different styles
mm,
is your unique style. It's very
yeah.
beautiful to
Thank
listen
you
to.
so much. That's a great compliment. I do think I have a unique style, and I think that it was just sort of necessity, because I have the three kids, and I just had to figure out how to do it myself, not by listening,
Hmm.
but just by figuring out my approach to setting words to music. I
Yeah.
can
Well,
speak about that if you want.
well,
So
speaking of Paul Bowles, I knew Paul Bowles originally as a composer when I first started to sing, and of course, studying American song literature. And when I got to college, it was required reading of The Sheltering Sky. And
Right.
I just could not believe that this was the same
Same
person.
person. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And, actually, I became, well, he's my obsession, more as a writer than as a composer. I've been obsessed with that book my entire life. So just saying. And of course, living on the Upper West Side, you never know who you're going to meet on the street. And I was walking with, I had injured my foot and I had a walking stick or a hiking stick from the Mohonk Mountain House. And
Uh-huh.
this lovely guy comes up to me and said, "Where did you get that?" And I said, "At Mohonk." And he said, "Oh, I've always wanted to go there, but I'm only here part time. I live in Morocco for most of the year." And I said, "Morocco?" I said, "Oh my God, my obsession, Paul Bowles." And he said to me, "Well, I'm in charge of his library at his home." I said, "What?" And then we spent hours talking at the McDonald's at 104th and Broadway. What a lovely human being he was. And the stories he told me about Paul Bowles, they were priceless.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, okay, Patricio, you're up.
All right, Lori, I would love, I'm a composer too, and I would love to maybe after the interview to share some
I
of my music with you.
I would love to hear your music. That would be
But
awesome.
as a composer, one of the things that from time to time I go through, and maybe you go through it as well, is we hit a wall. So what do you do to find inspiration
Ah,
when that happens?
yeah, for me, it's very easy because all my inspiration comes from the words. So as long as I have words, I'm okay. And so I don't ever run out of inspiration because I always have words, and every musical decision is, hold on one second. I need to pick up my phone and hang it up so it stops.
Okay.
Um, when I have a commission that does not involve words, that for me is extremely difficult. And I've told this story before, but when the Baltimore Symphony commissioned me, I was thrilled. The first thing I did was call the office and say, "Can I make this a song cycle?" And they said no. And then I freaked out, and I just didn't know what to do. And my early training at Yale was writing music for film and theater. Um, and so I tried to imagine a film in my head that I was going to write music to, and that didn't go very well.
Mhm.
I'm just not cut out that way. So eventually, what I did was I took an Emily Dickinson poem. I sat down at the piano. Within 10 minutes, I sketched out the entire 4-minute piece. I threw the words out, which was really interesting. It was kind of like great training for choral writing, like, you know, uh, except for the chorus was the orchestra. And you didn't have to worry about words being intelligible so that you could really be creative with layering and things like that. So, I really do not like writing compositions where I don't have a text to set.
Mhm.
But that's my vast preference, so that's what I stick to when I can.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of commissions, Laurie, during this unbelievable time we're living through, how are you going about getting your work out there today?
Well, I'm busier than ever, actually. This spring was to have been a very, very busy time with me traveling.
Mhm.
The Scarlet Letter was supposed to be done at UC Irvine, and it's been postponed. And Indianapolis Opera was staging my Holocaust oratorio Vetum in a double bill with Wunderbar. And The Three Feathers was supposed to be done with Opera Steamboat in August. Everything got postponed.
Wow.
Instead of traveling constantly, I had the luxury of staying at home and finishing Uncovered, the opera uh, that's been commissioned by a consortium of universities led by Utah State and small opera companies led by City Lyric Opera. So I finished Uncovered, the piano vocal score to it. There are 9 scenes. The whole opera is about 70 minutes, and I'm orchestrating it right now. The premiere was to have been at Utah State in April 2021, but we all made the decision. Uh, Cindy Dewey and Dallas Heaton at Utah, and Seth Greenberg was our director, and Leah Lax, who wrote the libretto based on her own memoir about her own life, and I that we pushed it back a year.
Uh-huh.
Because of COVID, and in the hopes
Yeah.
that we can have an actual premiere. However, City Lyric Opera is presenting a virtual premiere of scene 2 of the opera on Thursday and Friday of this week. With very strict COVID adaptations, they were able to film scene 2 just with piano, and
Fantastic.
it's debuting later this week. For more information, you can visit citylyricopera.org/uncovered. And
Wow, awesome.
Uncovered is an interesting story. As I mentioned, it's based on Leah Lax's memoir. And Leah grew up in Dallas, and she was gay. And at that time, she's approximately my age, a little bit younger. Nobody was really anxious to reveal their gayness to the world.
Mhm.
It was a different time. And so she entered into an arranged marriage. She joined the Hasidic Jewish sect, much to the dismay of her family. And she entered into an arranged marriage when she was 19. And over the next decade, she had 7 children. And,
Oh my God.
and then she had one abortion with the 8th pregnancy when it was threatening both her life.
Hmm.
And she remained married for 30 years. And then found the courage to live her truth. And
Hmm.
so I think it's an important story that examines the consequences of not living the truth, and
Hmm.
um, her bravery, and the the marriage that she and her husband had was not the one that either one should have had. Um,
Right.
the scene that's premiering is the mikveh scene. It's probably the first mikveh scene in an opera. I'm really not sure. And the mikveh is the ritual bath that women go to prepare for sexual relations. So um, I'm very thrilled with the film that City Lyric has made of this, and the singers, and the team.
Wow. I really want to be part of this premiere, so I'll be checking it out.
Thank
So thank
you.
you for sharing that.
Thank you. Oh,
So
oh, I was just going to say one other thing. I have the big BBC Royal Philharmonic premiere I was supposed to fly over to London for. It was originally in October, then they made it in July, then they canceled the July one at the Cheltenham Festival, and they put it back to Wigmore Hall. I'm sorry, in October 25th, but I'm not going to fly there. But it's
No.
being streamed live from Wigmore Hall on
wow.
October 25th. So
Fantastic, Lori.
yeah, so I'm very happy about that. And like I said, I'm just busy, busy, busy working, and grateful, so far that our family has stayed healthy, and that I have the time to work uninterrupted. Well,
Yes.
fairly uninterrupted. There's Kirby, my dog.
Yes. The
Pretty.
best.
That's amazing. So, we have a young student learning composition at the Newark School of the Arts.
Mhm.
What kind of advice would you give a person like him, getting ready to go to college, doing applications, and are there any groups that you think he should join? Is there any type of music that he should try to study? I mean, what kind of advice would you give a young
Yeah. Well,
composer?
you can't go wrong studying the great classics, certainly, like you could spend a lifetime studying Bach and learn so much.
Hmm.
Um, um, you know, we're so fortunate with YouTube that you can see historical performances of um, opera singers and orchestras and the great instrumentalists. I am not I am my own children are much more educated in this aspect than I am. I will say they
Hmm.
huge consumers of studying um, the past, and it's very admirable. I was just always trying to stay afloat with the kids and write my music rather than listening,
Hmm.
but I think the more you can listen, the more you can learn from anybody.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and, and we live in an age where the access to everything is so easy. It's just phenomenal. And even now, I mean, because I'm going to be on at Wigmore Hall, I see that every day Wigmore Hall is posting live performances. Andras Schiff is
Wow.
performing Beethoven's Final
Hmm.
Sonata. live just yesterday. So there's so much to learn. And in terms of groups, I would say that it would probably be a good idea to join either ASCAP or BMI because in the future, when you have your pieces done, then you can collect performance royalties. And New Music USA is a great source helping composers. So I would suggest that as well.
Well, thank you. Is there any other questions that you want to ask, Nadine?
Yes, Laurie, do you teach composition to young students?
Not officially, but I am a mentor. I'm an unofficial mentor to several people, and then I am an official mentor. The NATS National Organization Association of Teachers of Singing, NATS, just started a new art song mentorship program, and this was Tom Chiapullo's brainchild.
Oh yes.
Tom is a wonderful colleague, and he and I recruited an incredible assortment of other mentors to join us, including Anthony Davis and Jake Heggie, and we have our inaugural class, which the first year was geared towards young Black composers. So we have 10 young wonderful Black composers who are our mentees, and each one of them will receive a commission from Cincinnati Song Initiative, which was started by collaborative pianist Sam Martin. So my mentee is Kyle Wooten, and I am really looking forward to working with him on his music and particularly this commission. So aside from that, when I do residencies, and I have a number of now residencies that are virtual, I'm working up with the Eastman Opera Department. They have a fantastic program going on where they have 6 composers come in to curate an evening of their songs, and their singers are creating a film and a story to incorporate all of the songs that we have chosen. So that's also incredibly interesting, to work with the kids. So that's how I teach.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such an amazing conversation, listening to someone that is so, her music is so performed everywhere in the world. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. And Patricio, I let's be in touch. I want to hear more about you and your music too.
I will make sure to do that. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. The next composer conversation will be with Jimmy Roberts. I will see you next Sunday at 3 p.m. Make sure to subscribe to our Newer School of the Arts YouTube channel so you don't miss out on a series of conversations with composers. Upcoming conversations include Valerie Capers, Derek Bermel, Hannibal Okumbe, Thomas Lee, and the Lead Workshop.